Welcome to the July 4th special edition of everything that we're talking about: brain capital, brain health, creative thinking. Today isn't July 4th, but it's the beginning of the weekend. A lot of people have this day off because we are observing it today. It is the 250th anniversary of our nation's founding, and there's a lot there. There's a lot of complexity there, but I'm just going to take it for what it's worth on the theme of creative thinking and what it means to be a creative thinker back when the nation was founded, and what does it mean to be a creative thinker today. Let's wait for some people to join on and join us, and I'm going to share this on some other platforms, but I thank you for being with us. And if you are here, please feel free to put in the chat some questions about creative thinking in AI, and really what does that look like for us and for our children and for our team members and things along those lines. And so, all right, let's get started. Happy July 4th. And of course, that means different things to different people. I know Frederick Douglass has his amazing speech of what does July 4th mean to African Americans, to other certain groups of people that were in different situations at the founding of this nation. That's another talk. But really, just what does it mean to creatively move forward in this time? And some things I just wanted you to think about. I want you to think about your own creative journey, right? When the nation was founded and when people were just, building new things here. Of course, we know people already were here and they were already building and acting with the land. But as far as the founding fathers coming over here and what it meant to create with just things that are just there. There were no stores, there were no things that we are used to today. And even the people who are already here, the indigenous people who already interacted with the land and them and their creativity, them understanding their interconnectedness with the land. And so thinking about what it means to be creative 250 years ago, about how you needed to look at the tree and see the chair in the tree, see a table in the tree. Things weren't already set up for you to go into a store and just purchase. You had to use your imagination. You had to use your perseverance. You had to use associative thinking. You had to use one another, the social bonds to be able to create together. And do we still have that need now? Of course, we have a lot of comforts, especially in certain countries where it's more developed, that we don't have to have that survival type of creativity that they needed 250 years ago. But what does creative thinking look like now? In my first book, which I adapted for the classroom, so it is Intercultural Creativity, and then I adapted it for the classroom of the future classroom of intercultural creativity. And I talk about the pillars, the 7 diamond tools of creative thinking, and what that looks like, how culture affects our ability to be a creative. And so as you celebrate your July 4th, I want you to think about conditioning and culture, and how has your culture just skewed or covered your creative identity. Here's an example of what I am talking about. The way you were raised, the social groups you were raised in, the identities that you carry, the social conditioning that you went through that you weren't even aware of. That's just whatever social groups, whatever family groups, faith-based groups, just the social circles that you were in affected the way that you interpret the world, the way you push into the world, and the way you perceive the world is pushing back to you. For instance, I have close family members and even cousins who did not travel as much as my own family did for whatever reasons. But as an adult, that affects the way that we perceive the world. Close friends or people of the same demographics as far as ethnic demographics may not have done certain experiences in their childhood. Like travel is key. The arts are key. Some did sports. We did sports, and just even faith-based experiences. Different religions can affect the way that you see the world, the way you see innovation, the way you see courage and boldness, right? And who's allowed to be bold and who's not allowed to be bold, whose ideas carry value and whose ideas or may not be seen as valuable, even though it's the same exact idea, but it's perceived differently. And so, since creativity and freedom of creativity is the theme of this short talk, I want you to really be reflective upon that. Of what were the early experiences that I had that may have affected the way I see my creative ability. And so, for instance, I'm an adult and I take a lot of risks because of my mother. She created a home where we took risks. We went out to new places that we didn't know anything about. We met new people that were different from us, and so it was seen as the norm to really engage in these new spaces with curiosity, with hope, with expectation to learn something new. And so, if you're a parent, a guardian, a grandparent, a mentor, a coach, even a friend, the situations you're giving your kids now in those developmental years, those primary developmental years at 0 through about 10 to 15 or so, that's shaping the way that they perceive their creative courage and identity in their adulthood. So keep that in mind, right? We're celebrating the 250th anniversary of our nation, talking about what it meant to be creative back then, but what does it mean to be creative now? And so that's something to think about, your cultural conditioning, and the cultural conditionings that you're providing for your children as well. And so we have to also understand our agency. That is cool, or that is critical, should I say, our agency, and something that is going to be very important, and we're talking about it as AI comes onto the scene, our metacognition. Metacognition. And I saw a wonderful TED talk that I am going to watch it several times and to pull some notes from it. But what does it mean to be metacognition, or to have metacognition in our creative process, right? What does that look like, and how can we make sure that it is developing, and it's developing us in all of the areas despite artificial intelligence? What does that look like? All right. So I am just sharing that on my other platforms and making sure people see that we are live and we are talking together. All right. So having metacognition is so important. What is metacognition? Metacognition is your ability to think about your thinking, okay? And your ability to challenge your situation. And instead of being just passive takers of what happens to you, you're thinking critically, but you're also imagining creatively of what could be. And so people talk about critical thinking and then creative thinking like they're two different, completely different things. And I just say they're two sides of the same coin, because when you're thinking critically, you're really analyzing the data, you're looking at historical patterns, you're questioning why things are and what other hidden influences could be at play. But the creative thinking is you're now imagining, okay, well, what could be? How could we turn this situation into something new? How can we reorganize these influences so people can actually thrive and they don't feel just the inhibition of growth, right? The arrested development of people. So critical thinking and creative thinking go back to back, and they're so important. And so as you're celebrating this weekend, right, your first thing is to think about your developmental cultural influences on your creative identity. What does it mean to be creatively free? Do you even have the courage to step out with your creative ideas? Like, what does it mean to share your creativity? And then little c, right, little creativity, and then the big C, creativity that actually goes beyond you and affects your social circles, your community, your nation, and even your world. Could you be inventing something right now, which I feel that my team is? Could you be inventing something right now that can affect the creative potential of the world? right? Or of your world. Your world could be your home or the people on your street or the people in your organizations that you're a part of. How can your creativity be a blessing and be a support to others? And so the last thing I just want to leave you before you go off and have fun and go celebrate and have your social gatherings around our 250th anniversary is that you can be an active contributor to your creative growth. I'm going to do another video on the different levels of critical thinking and also the different processes of creative thinking and why, your downtime is important, your incubation time, your collective time is important, your creative time, you actually creating things is important. What does that look like to intentionally put that in your life? So keep that in mind that you are an active participant of your creative growth. Your upbringing affects your creative identity and the way you think that the world perceives you as a creative being. And so, for you to be more meditatively cognitively aware of that is the first step. And then you can actually take steps to change it, modify it, change your belief systems around things, whatever you have to do. The first step is always awareness that it's even going on. And looking at the creative potential of the people who were here 250 years ago, and the people in all social areas. Those were indigenous people who were here before the founding fathers got here. Then of course the pilgrim areas, and then those even enslaved at that time. How were they able to perceive whatever situation that they were in, their creative potential, and what does it mean to be creatively free, and who was free, and who was not, and what does that look like? And even in 2026, are we creatively free? What does that mean today? We knew what it meant 250 years ago for certain groups of people at different levels of society, but today there's no outwardly enslavement, right? But what is it? But are we free creatively? So that's another question that I just want you to think about. The creative ideas that I hold in my heart, am I able to share them, and am I able to execute and really bring them out to the world? What does it mean to be creatively free? That is what we are talking about on this 250th anniversary of our nation's founding. We would love to have you for our free webinar on July 5th, July 7th, and then we have a class coming up after that. Please go to JanineLetford.com and check that out. If you're with corporations and organizations, I do keynote speaking, corporate training, leadership training, employee training on building the 7 pillars of brain capital, which is brain health and brain skills. So if you're looking for innovative, new, dynamic, research-backed training on that area, I am here. Check that out. Go to the website, see the keynote speaking clips, and know that this brain is where it is at. Looking at brain development and looking at leaders who know how this beautiful organ works and how the brains of your people work. So there's the flyer for that. Check that out and stay connected. JanineLetford.com. And then the nonprofit is Lyrics and Leadership Institute for Brain Health, where we go into the community and to the kids and we teach them how to use their brains. And of course, we have books for sale and intergenerational books for kids and adults at the same time. And just know that you are creative. Your brain is beautiful, and happy 250th anniversary.